Howdy there, folks. Welcome back to another stream here in the UK, live on Twitch and YouTube with me, Blanco. It's good to see you again. I apologise for the skipped session yesterday. I felt absolutely ropey, to be honest. I felt absolutely awful yesterday. Yeah, I say awful. I felt a bit run down. Been a long week of streaming, I think I might have had a touch of hay fever, which is a bit weird because I've never had it before. But they do say that you can pick it up at any time. You can suddenly develop hay fever that you never had before. It's like brilliant, great. There's the joys of getting old, I guess. So last session we actually did a session. Which was way back on Friday, I believe it was. We finished off our Storm Giant and the other assorted miniatures that were there. We had the Gnolls and the Carrion Crawlers, and we said that we were going to pick a couple more miniatures to do, and part of that miniature selection was our big boy troll there, who I'm really happy with. You can see we've actually started to apply some shading to him. Obviously this is what we did on stream, and then we have a bunch of teeny tiny kobolds to do as well, so completely at the opposite end of the spectrum there, which is all fine and dandly. So yeah, we have kobolds and we have a troll. Now what I have done is I've been very brave, and I've broken out one of my precious goblin greens here, and I think that is going to be a pretty good colour to highlight this guy up. We're going to actually see about doing some highlights on him. What I'm going to do is give it a quick shake, and I will break out the shaker for this. So you will have to excuse the noise for a moment, and then we'll see if we need to mix up any other additional colour to it to get it the right shade. So here we go. Excuse the noise. These paints do mix up quite nicely, to be fair. Now you'll have to excuse that, opening it with my teeth, because the little popper on the side of the bottle is gone. It's long gone, to be fair. But we have some goblin green. Goblin green is quite a based colour, to be honest with you. It's just that sort of lovely mid green. It's such an iconic colour, but it is also, whilst being iconic, it is actually quite a nice colour. It's towards the lighter end of the spectrum of green. It's quite rich. It's got a fair bit of yellow in there, but yeah, I think that's actually going to be pretty much perfect for what we want to do, and we could even come along and knock that back again afterwards with a little bit more contrast. But what we're going to do for now is we're just going to sketch in some very rough highlights. Going around the contour of his body here. I'm trying to keep it fairly fairly sort of natural highlights. I don't want to go too hard, too fast on it. Like I say, what I will look at doing is adding a little bit of contrast back into the mix to knock these highlights back down again, so that they're not quite so overpowering. So we had an excellent D&D session today. Really was a nice fun one. We had a little bit of combat with a drow gunslinger in our Waterdeep campaign, which was quite nice. That's one of the we haven't had, well, to be fair, we haven't actually had any particularly challenging combat encounters. Everything we've done so far has been pretty much a walk in the park, so I imagine it might get difficult at some point, but certainly tonight with our drow, we kicked his ass, which was actually rather nice. It's quite satisfying to turn around and just, you know, dunk on a guy. Which is rather typical, because obviously I've just gone after our last encounter where, you know, people were going down left, right and centre. I've gone and spec'd my artificer as a healer, which then becomes rather irrelevant when none of the team actually take a hit. So we didn't lose a single hit point in our fight with the drow, and it was all pretty much over and done with before it even started. So I think perhaps the DM might need to maybe tailor some fights from now on to accommodate our newfound power of level 2. Because, you know, we're now basically unstoppable killing machines at level 2. I think a lot of it is that we're actually starting to learn how to D&D, which is, you know, as a group we're learning how to D&D together, which is quite satisfying, but probably also quite terrifying from the DM's point of view, because coordinated team is gonna make his life a bit of a hell. Until he has to find an enemy that we can't just one-shot. And then you'll probably find that we end up with a total party kill, because we've bitten off more than we can chew. Because that's how we roll. That is how we roll. We are the sort of chaos incarnate kind of team, I believe. So all I'm doing here is literally just sketching in some details where I think the flesh should be lighter. Some of it will work, some of it won't. You know, he's got some raised sections here, which I think will probably do with a little bit of a highlight. Destruct, thank you very much for the follow, much appreciated. How are you this evening? just keep it quite sketchy here, because I am going to come back with the contrast and knock these highlights back down a bit, hopefully. So there we go, we're building up some nice colours here. We've got our contrast paint, which we started off with. What did we start off with? Hey, it's great to see a newcomer to the hobby. What have you... I'm doing really well, thank you. It's a nice Sunday evening here in the UK. I've just come home from a D&D session in town, and now I'm going to just a couple of hours spent painting some D&D miniatures. So what's got you started in the hobby? What are you working on? Because it's great to see new people to the hobby, and there's so much material out there to get you started these days. It's great that you've sort of found Twitch. The mini painting community on Twitch is a really nice place, so it's good to see. Oh, okay. That's very cool. Nice collection of you know, different stuff, different styles, different genres to work from. The D&D minis, the Kenku and the Grung and what have you. Where have you got the miniatures from? Are they 3D printed, or are they bought? Because I know you can buy some of the miniatures separately. I've got all of my miniatures mostly from the board game. There's various different board games out there. Once I've finished this, I'll sort of give you a talk through about what I've done on him so far, and give you an idea about how you would duplicate it, how you would sort of come up with this, if you're interested. Yeah, so these minis are from the D&D board games. There's various different ones. This one was Legend of Drizzt. And this came with a number of different miniatures. There was 2 of these trolls in the box game. They come as a sort of a horrible this coloured green plastic, and I've proceeded to spray paint them black using very cheap. I'm in the UK. We have sort of shops called like Poundland and places like that. They often do cheap car sprays. I'm a big believer in making the hobby as cheap as possible, so I will buy those car sprays. Okay, that's good. Actually having a D&D store near you, that's really cool. You're quite lucky, because not everyone has access to that sort of real estate. So what I do is I come along and I hit them with a coat of black spray paint, and then I'll do a zenithal. Let me grab one. Oh, in fact, here's the ideal opportunity to show you here. So I'll hit them with a zenithal spray of grey primer, and what that is that you hold the miniature facing down and you spray it directly down, and that leaves all of these areas that you can see in the base black. I then come along and hit it with a dry brush, which you can see on some of these areas of pure white, and I do that dry brush so that you capture even the bits that are in black, and that brings out the edge detail. And then all I do is I hit them up with a coat of contrast paint. You'll hear people use various different terms for that. Some of them call it slap chop, some of them hate it, despise it with a passion. I just view it as a tool to help me get rid of grey miniatures, or in this case, green. It helps me paint miniatures quicker, and at this time, that's all I'm really interested in. So, you know, for the best tips and tricks, look at somebody who's painting miniatures properly. There's sort of various different ways and styles and bits and pieces of how to paint a miniature. I'll probably give you the tips for getting them painted quickly, getting them ready to hit the tabletop sort of thing. Because we do tend to go quite fast when we actually get a miniature going. We'll finish this one off in a couple of sessions sort of thing. Yeah, so it's called zenithal, and it is quite easy to do. Like I say, you spray it black, and then pointing it directly away from you, hit the spray going down, and it leaves all of these areas in shadow. What's important then is the type of paint that you hit it with afterwards. I use something called contrast paint from Citadel. There's a couple of different ones from different manufacturers out there. It's quite high pigment, but it is very, very liquidy. It's water in there, or you know, quite high liquid. When you come to paint that on the model, it's not fully opaque, so it will allow some of that black highlight, that black shade, to show through. Right, so we've got a couple of colours on the model. I know it looks like it's just green, but there is a couple of colours on there. Now we're just going to start to develop these highlights. I've got a little bit of Sunburst Yellow, which is another really old colour. that I do love for highlighting Goblin Green. Yeah, sorry, that Zenithal, it does only work properly. You can get it to work with normal paints when you use them very, very finely, very, very thin, so very watered down. But then it can be quite difficult to actually, especially as a beginner, to use that paint when it's so watered down, because it's incredibly frustrating. You paint it on and nothing happens because it's so thin. Okay, just make sure that it is a Citadel contrast paint. Like I say, it will be marked here with the type of paint it is. Some of them are base, layer, and then you've got contrast. If it is a contrast paint, then that is how you're supposed to use it. You're just supposed to straight up apply the paint over the base coat that you apply, whatever type of base you're doing. You don't have to do the Zenithal. You can just do a straight white or bone coloured or even grey coloured undercoat, and then you apply the contrast paint over the top of it. So just make sure you've got the right paint for the job that you're trying to do. Right. Still stuck here using this Goblin Green. No, I wouldn't say stuck. I do love Goblin Green. It's a lovely colour. I will do a very slight highlight over some of these areas as well. Once I've done all of this, I will break out the Sunburst Yellow. Oh, that's a blast from the past kind of name. And lighten this one up. Oh, that's a bit hard to see, that one. I'm going to have to make sure that we keep ourselves on target. This is my target here. I like to keep us pointing on. Right. I don't want to be too heavy-handed with these highlights. I'm just coming in with a little bit. I want to try and preserve a fair amount of the actual base colour here, because when we go to wash it back, it will come up as a different colour again, which is what you've always got to worry about, but that's not looking too bad there. And then I'm just going to come in and light these dozies like a good little troll. So yeah, like I say, we are leaving a decent chunk of that. Destruct, it's been lovely to have you. Not a problem. Yeah, drop by anytime. I tend to stream most evenings from sort of 8 o'clock UK time, so it'd be lovely to see you back in the chat at some point. Right, and then we can just come along here and highlight up again. Yes, I was in the process of telling you guys about my D&D session. I've scored a gun! Oh! Yeah, we killed the Drow gunslinger, and I kind of railroaded the DM into, oh, okay, so he had a gun, yes, and now I've got the gun because I'm an artificer in the campaign, and I have asked him right from the start if I could have a gun, so perhaps that was his way of allowing me to have one. I suppose at least this way I don't have to pay 250 gold pieces for it, which is one advantage. Unfortunately, as I have realised, being an artificer, I don't actually have proficiency with martial ranged weapons, and the only way that I can see of getting it is to burn a feat at level 4, which I'm a long way off, or multi-class into fighter. As far as I can see, they are probably the only way to get proficiency with guns. So unless I'm missing something, that's what I'm going to have to do. However, as an artificer, I can find ways. Oh, actually, that's a very good point. As an artificer, if I was, no, I don't want to go battlesmith because I've kind of roped myself into the healing. I suppose I could still be a bit of a healer and a battlesmith, but probably not an optimal kind of thing. I don't know whether we'll need optimal healing at level 5 or whatever it is. I'm just trying to work out ways in which I can realistically go, I cast Glock 17 and be a healer. But yeah, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. So as I say, I am keeping these highlights quite sketchy. I want them to look quite rough. Don't want an awful lot of definition out of that at this stage, mostly because we are going to come back and put another little coat of contrast paint over this just to shade this in. Just make sure that we've got main areas of muscle tone highlighted, and then we'll go back and pick out a contrast to go over this all with. Now we have got a little bit of stuff to pick out on the face, but I am being quite careful because I'm going to want to bring some other colours in on the face. Nothing overly detailed, We don't go in too much on these models because they are quite soft. The sculpting on them themselves is quite weak in a lot of places. Yes, you can tell it's a troll, and you know it's not bad at being a troll, but some of the actual definition points of the model can be a bit suspect in places. Right. So yeah, I've got a gun in my D&D campaign, which is fairly awesome. You know, it's probably not what the DM expected, but maybe he doesn't realise that I can break it a little bit. It's not massively broken, but basically I can make it. Actually, where do I get extra attacks from by level 5? There's not an awful lot of places as an artificer that I can do that, and probably certainly not if I actually look at multi-classing, so it might not be too broken. In fact, I think it will actually be quite normal. Don't think I'll be able to get multiple shots in with it. The artificer's reloading weapon does make it ignore the loading feature. It turns it into a +1, and it makes it ignore the loading feature, which is kind of the cap on guns, which means that you can only get one shot in a turn with them. It takes that restriction away. So I suppose if we because rogues don't get extra attack until level 5 anyway, so yeah, it's probably just going to be me as a healer with a gun as a backup, which is fine. I can live with that. Right. So this is the next part of the secret recipe, which is Sunburst Yellow, another really old colour that we're going to pop a little bit on the shaker, so excuse the noise for a second. So, if any of you aren't familiar with the old Games Workshop hex pots, this is a great little eye opener for you. These hex pots, the lids are starting to go a bit fragile on them now. You can see where the little tab here that you would normally put your finger under to open has gone, and this joint here is probably about to go, but let me open this one up for you. Yeah, see, it's about to go. But you look at that delicious, liquid, beautiful paint. These pots are probably over 30 years old now, and they're still going strong. So if you ever see them, pick them up. They can be a bit temperamental. Some of the colours will be the hardest thing that you've ever had to try and paint with, because they contain so little pigment. It's unbelievable. But others are absolutely fantastic. Hi there, Fields Beyond. Welcome back to the chat. How are you this evening? So we're going to come along with our warty friend here and pick out all of these little spots, because he's a very warty boy. Get it? Warty boy. Before we come back, and we're just going to give him a very, very light wash to get him looking super duper. Now I'm just going to do a little highlight along the very most extreme edges of this guy, because we want some brightness in him there. You've just done painting an orc. Boyfriend said now I need to paint 50 more. I'm afraid that is generally how orcs work. So yeah, crack to it. You're going to need a bit of patience when it comes to painting an orc army, that's for sure. No, you've still got your painting your painting allowance. There, you're still allowed to pick up the paintbrush. Yeah, I see no problem there. I mean, I'm guessing your boyfriend has just seen an opportunity to have some cheap commission painting done. Right, so we've got a little bit of highlighting done on the face. We're going to come along each of these little warts here, and then just the most extreme highlight on each of the sort of muscle groups. I don't want to get it too light, and I don't want it to be too overpowering, so yeah. This actually used to be how back in the day, I can't remember what base coat we used to use, but Goblin Green and Sunburst Yellow used to be our orc recipe for most of the orc boys out there. This was before everything went all far too grim dark and edgelord. Goblin Green, Sunburst Yellow highlight, and orcs used to go up to nice bright colours. None of this sort of working up from a black undercoat for most of them. I am noticing this Goblin Green and Yellow mix is drying out really quickly. I wonder if that's something to do now with the age of the paint. Maybe that's one of the reasons we started to move away. This is hair, but it's going to end up quite dark, to be honest with you. It's probably going to be a sort of bluish black. Must remember to highlight up his ears. Important part of him, to be fair. Right. Like I say, just keep that nice and subtle there. Keep it highlighted towards the middle of the model, even though that area is in quite deep shadow. Probably shouldn't have gone quite as much as that. But as I say, we are going to knock all of this back. Yeah, no worries. That's really appreciated, Fields. I hope you, if you don't manage to pop back in, I hope you have a lovely evening, and I hope you have a lovely Monday as well. Start of the week coming up just around the corner. Keeping these highlights quite sketch-like. We're not going for super detail. We just want to brighten up the model in certain places. Yeah. Yeah, this definitely is drying out quicker than I remembered. Maybe it is time for me to invest in a wet palette. I don't believe they're a thing. I don't believe they're necessary, but maybe I should try it out and see what the hype is. Maybe it's because I haven't painted for so damn long and the technology has improved and increased, and now we have all these tools. I'm not buying the brush toilet though. That is just a step too far in terms of technology. They were too busy thinking about if they could to think about whether they should. Right, and then we've just got a little bit to do on the hands, and then I will start with that, knocking it back with another little dose of contrast. Okay, that's our big boy looking green and swole. Now, what was the lighter? Nearly put my lid on the wrong colour paint there. That would have been awful, and I'd have ruined a pot goblin green. I've never forgiven myself. Right, just bear with me 1 second, folks. Sorry about that. Right, now one of the nice things about working on a slightly larger model like this is that I can basically flip and swap and choose between colour paints, and I can move around the model with it, and it's not too much of a problem. With some of the smaller models, when you're using contrast, you really suffer because it takes forever to dry. But where I'm using normal paints on a bigger model like this, I can come back and do certain areas immediately, so I don't need to put it to one side. Because whilst I do have these little kobold dudes on the desk here, they are the other party that got picked out in the lineup. I'm not planning to do much with them during this session. Now, what we're going to do is just work this into the areas. So we're not going to go and do the whole thing with this. We are working this around to blend some of our highlights. That's all we're doing with it. We're going to take this and move it around the model. Didn't want to go quite over his eyes that much, but did want to pop highlight, tone it in a bit. And I find this is often one of the most relaxing parts of this style, is just to come back and clean up these highlights with your base contrast, and then the color transition starts to become quite noticeable. Once that contrast dries, that will definitely look like a much smoother highlight. Okay. So some of these highlights definitely needed to be smoothed back a little bit. Hopefully this is just enough to make them good without being too overpowered in the other direction. Quite a delicate balancing process of how this contrast paint you actually use it and put it in on the model. I understand some people are still going to hate it, you know, but it's a case of taking it and doing or trying to see what works for you. That's all it is. And that also brings a little bit of a pop to the warts as well, because as I said, he's a very warty boy. He's not a river troll, he's a very naughty boy. No, I mustn't try and do minutes. Of course, you can come back and re-pick out these warts many times as you like, because the darker the skin around the wart, the more standout they're going to be. They actually benefit from that quite nicely, from just having a little ring of this painted around them. It makes them stand out, nice little touch. It's got us a nice sort of even look over a lot of him. Which is what we're after. We want smooth, we want nice sort of even transitions of a lot of colours here. Finding somewhere to put my finger. Oh, phrasing. Apologies. Let that never be uttered again on the channel. Nope. Stay on target. Keep it on the screen. No, I'm fine. Oh, right. Now I could go backwards and forwards with this over a couple of different passes, but I'm not. I'm going to leave it as soon as I get this one done, which there isn't a huge amount more to do with that colour. I am going to leave it. I don't want to be doing endless passes and fades with it, because it does look, it's looking okay now at the moment, to be honest with you. Quite happy with how that's looking actually, so I won't be going back and doing much more with it because I don't see the need. It's giving it quite a nice bit of definition in places. It's knocked back the highlights that we've done. You can see there's a nice bit of shade going on there. It's supposed to look like a stylized troll rather than be a painting masterclass sort of thing, so I'm happy enough with that as a look. We're not going to go into much more in the way of detail with it. go. We'll just pop a little bit on here. Just tighten that up. Like I say, all of this is just re-adding the contrast paints helps to soften the highlight edges that we've got. There's a bit of a weird, I probably should have brought the highlight up further here, but the paint's all dry now and I don't use a wet palette, so maybe that's what the wet palette's for. And I don't really want to bring this side down to match it, so that's going to stay as it is, and just the fact that he's got his shoulder dipped is kind of what we're going to blame for that one. And then I'm just going to pop a bit on here on this shoulder. We'll pick out around the boils, sorry, warts, because again he's a very warty boy. There we go, that's, oh, not quite, need to just feather that a little bit here, it looks very, very stark. Transition there going. That's better. Anywhere else? No, it's looking quite nice to be fair. Right, the hands, legs. Yeah, maybe just a little bit up that leg there. Go, it's nice. Yeah. Okay, that's looking pretty swish. So, troll skin. Quite a nice easy process. We've got a few little highlights and a bit of colour changing to do around his lips and maybe a little bit around his eyes. I want around his eyes to be a little bit more bleached bone in colour. And what I might do is bleached bone and then come back and just add a little touch of, do I want to add a bit of bleached bone and contrast, or am I just going to add this and then add a bit of the contrast paint? I think that's what we'll do. Take a little bit of bleached bone, which I really do need to get and fix that pot. If I don't fix that pot, I need to just straight up bin it and figure something else out for bleached bone. Break up. There's a whole world of other cuts, so Wow, that's dried out quick. Oh, maybe I do need to invest in a wet palette. Oh, not something I wanted to think about. I'm over 40 years old. I can't learn new stuff. How am I going to learn a new painting thing at over 40? Ugh. A new paint technique, a wet palette. What sort of magic and trickery is this? Oh, sorry, camera. The reason I'm wanting to put this colour in around his face is to try and give him some form of age. I find that a sort of white colour around the face, a sort of this dry bone sort of colour and texture, often is quite good for adding a bit of age to a miniature, to make it look older. I'm going to do the bottom lip as well, but the bottom lip I am going to come back and colour a sort of purple. And again, we will feather that back with just a touch of contrast, just along the very edges of that to change the colour back again. And there we go. And then all we're going to do is just take a little bit, tiniest bit of this pure contrast, just come back again and feather this. go. That is looking a lot cleaner. As I say, this is not everybody's technique. I find that when using these contrast paints, if you just come along and use them to sort of glaze in the highlights that you've done, you can still be a lot sort of quicker and imprecise with your highlights. But then instead of the contrast paint just adding a single sort of low point back, you can feather the highlights exactly where you want them. So that then gives you the ability to sort of fade it in, which I quite appreciate. I quite like that ability. And again, I'm not disguising this. The contrast paint won't disguise these mistakes, but they will soften them and fade them. And then it looks a lot more like a natural effect that you were trying to get, rather than a mistake. Doesn't mean mistakes are never going to happen with your models, but a bit easier to make them work when you can cover it up. So there we go, and that's added quite a nice sort of aged look to the troll, I think. By coming in with that sort of bone colour, and then for his lower lip, I'm gonna just, again, just using contrast paints, I'm just going to glaze in a sort of pink colour on the lips a little bit. What do we normally do? Is it Volupus? Let's have a look. I think Volupus will look quite good on there. And again, I don't want to take all of that grey away, the bone sort of colour. So we'll keep it as little strokes of colour to make it sort of, again, kind of aged and cracked. Skin. It's quite hard to see, isn't it? My focus is not the greatest on this. It's autofocus on the camera, but it's not super quick. don't want to go right the way to the back of it, of the jaw, but I just want to get enough at the top of the lip, not the top of, kind of hard to describe, at the point where the bottom lip meets the teeth effectively. Kind of hard to see past his nose as well. There we go. Now, the tip of this is a bit of a different matter that I'm not sure this is the right colour for. And then, just the tiniest bit of water. Hope that we haven't ballsed that up. Yeah, water isn't maybe the best for that, but I maybe should have used the other colour, Magos. We just sort of want it to be mostly staining on the tip of the nose anyway, but maybe come across as a bit too pink. But we'll let that dry and we'll see what happens to it, because I've hopefully got enough pigment there that should cover that over. We'll see what happens. If it's too much, we'll knock it back, we'll glaze it again, and we'll do something else with it. But that's kind of what I wanted to achieve around his nose and mouth. Yeah, that's definitely too much on the nose. We'll work something out once that's dry. I'm quite happy with how the lips have come out on him. And then I'll go in and paint his teeth in a, well, probably a Wraithbone sort of colour. These here, is that a hoop? Don't know. We'll see. Right, there's not a huge amount to do on a troll, because they are quite simple models. They're quite simple colour schemes and what have you. Let's just have a swig of my tea. Right, now we've got, I don't know whether to do these as wraps. If so, they're going to be quite if they're going to be cloth wraps, then yeah, quite dirty. I think these are going to be leather, and then these bands at the end are going to be metal, and then we'll have a grey pelt with white highlights to it and black hair, and then obviously the skull, his little belly button skull. That's clearly what that is. It might be a trollpeen skull covering up, you know, sort of his wiener area. Oh, I just forgot to do those veins as well, didn't I? Never mind. We will catch that on the flip when we come back with our... I think, again, the same colour there. Volupus pink would probably be the best. So, we're going to Gore-grunta fur for our leather. And so that's his wraps and the thing tying down his ponytail. Oh, so we've actually got a normal week at work next week. I know, it feels like so long since I've had a normal week at work, because the last 2 weeks have been bank holiday weeks, let alone the fact that last week I had off. And then next week, so not tomorrow, but the week after, that's a bank holiday week as well. We are oversubscribed for bank holidays here in the UK at the moment. I'm not going to moan about it too much. Because it's quite nice. But it does make it a bit of a pain when it comes to scheduling the guys on site as to where and what and who they're working for. So it's a bit annoying, but thankfully we all get by. Right, that's that bit done, and then we're just going to come along and slop it on here. That's the technical term for contrast painting, is slop it on. Well, hey, it works, doesn't it? That's a lovely colour when you get a nice textured area like this, like these wraps. That is a really lovely colour. It's weird, the browns are probably the least sort of sexy of the colours. You know, if a not in a in an exciting kind of way. The browns are probably the least of that. However, I find them the best colours for this contrast effect. I think they really, really work nicely. They come out, they stand out really well. They look lovely. Yeah, there we go. Right, now I have decided that the new metal colours can absolutely get in the bin. I've got no interest in the new metal colours whatsoever. I will fully be sticking with my Mithril Silver, as I've actually found that I've got another 2 pots of it after this one, so woohoo! I think we'll probably be good. Like I say, they have lasted me for 30 years, or pretty much 30 years. God, is that? It actually is somewhere in the region of 30 years now. I am so not happy with the tip of his nose like that. That hasn't feathered in very well at all. So I'm going to have to break out the wraith bone again. It just looks terrible just sat there like that, doesn't it? Let's see about... Okay, that looks all right, and then we will come back with our little bit of green and just feather that back in as well. I think I might just wash over the whole thing to make that tip slightly stained with green, and then it should look all right. I have no idea what is going on with this background music. It's sort of making noises which I don't find particularly comfortable, but I haven't also got any standing with YouTube to change. In fact, I might just see if I can fast forward through it, because that's getting really frustrating. That'll do. That'll do. Yeah, all I need. Right, where was our green? Ooh. Might work like so. It's quite an ugly sort of colour. I'm not very happy with that, but it's where we're at. Cool. We're going to stop messing with that one now. What we are going to do is we are going to break out the Space Wolf Grey. for his loincloth. And then we're going to do the black on his... So we have Space Force grey, black for his hair, a tiny bit of... Oh, can I find it? Can I find it? I definitely need to do something about this. Tiny bit of skeleton horde for his penis skull. Metal on the wristbands, and then a bit of Agrax Earthshade on that. So, Space Wolf's Grey first. And with this is quite nice because all we're going to do is work this in at the top. And feather it down to the bottom so that it doesn't, not too dark down at the bottom. So it maintains that sort of white. And then I don't need to come back and add additional white dry brushes to this, because we'll get it in the one pass like this. Go like that. In around here. And go a bit further down here. Because if possible, we don't want to be doing extra coats. It's the lazy paint away. I've got a little bit of green there, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. We'll just splurge a nice dark bit of grey there. I'm just going to leave a little patch up the top where it's still white, just to break it up a little bit, and then I'm going to bring that down into there like so, and down into there a bit. And done. That's his groin cloth cleared out. There we go. That's that. We then need his hair done. Now I did make a little bit of a mistake on his hair when I first started this model. There's a patch, I'll point it out to you, by his left ear, that got base coated in green. Just here, look. Now hopefully the black is going to cover that without too much issue. And if there is issue, we're just going to have to go back and repaint it at some point. That looks all right to me. That'll be fine. The black is a nice colour as well. The contrast black is just absolute cheat mode when it works. And it does seem to work quite a lot of the time, to be fair. Ah, no. Oh, just sort of fixed that. Clear that off of his ear there. Ah, that's better. It's fine. We fixed it. Ah, I'm touching the grey. I'm doing it all wrong now. I'm making mistakes. Okay. So if you're just joining us, we are close to finishing off this troll from the Legend of Drizzt box set. I'm sure it was the Drizzt box set this one came from. This is where I get all of my D&D miniatures at the moment from. I will at some point be firing up my 3D printer to give me a wider variety of miniatures to work with. But at the moment, I find that the board game miniatures are a perfect blend of cheap and they get the job done. They represent exactly what they represent. So it's quite a nice compromise. They're easy enough to get hold of. You just have to wait for them to appear at the right price on Marketplace or something similar. eBay, I keep an eye out. I have some eBay searches saved. I have a few things saved on Facebook as well to notify me when things are listed. Yeah, so we're just about to finish him off. We've done this guy in a mix of contrast and regular paints. A lot of what I do is contrast just for ease and quickness. But there are certain things I like to put a slightly personalised effect on with various methods of highlighting and shading and what have you, and knocking him up and bringing him back down. So that's quite a nice compromise, I think, on spending loads and loads of time, which I don't have, because who does these days, and getting a mediocre okay finish, which is all that I really need to represent, for example, a troll on the tabletop. Well, that does the job. You know, I can put him down on the tabletop and everyone's going to go, ah, a troll. So what more do I really need? And to be fair, a lot of the people that I play with would go, actually, that's a really good troll. Yeah, I might think that I've cheated, I've done it in contrast paints, and, you know, all of this nonsense. But some people are going to look at it and go, yeah, that works. Right, here we go. Again with just the best silver paint ever made, as I'm sure everyone will agree. Mithril Silver. I still feel it's the best silver paint ever made.
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
So we'll paint that on and then let it dry and hit that paint with a quick shade of Agrax. Doesn't matter if we get it a little bit onto the brown. Oh dear, I am rubbing off some of the black though. Unfortunately, I don't have a painting handle big enough to accommodate this guy's base. So I am just having to hold on to him like a caveman would back in caveman days. target. Keep that in the crosshairs. I keep reminding myself to get my miniature over my crosshair. Oh, I've moved my... What have I done here? Whee. There we go. So that you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Otherwise, I keep accidentally slipping off the edge of the table or the screen. I keep coming down here to do it in front of me, which one, I don't get it in the best possible light, so I'm doing myself a disservice for my eyes, and two, you guys can't see it when it's here. Well, you can just see the tips of his head, so that's not really very good. So right, well, I think we are quite possibly going to get this guy done today on stream, which means our poor little kobolds have had no attention whatsoever. I've got these series of kobolds here that are also have been selected to paint. So there's 3 of these spear dudes who are breaking their own spine. Look at that, their feet are pointing in one direction and their heads and spears are pointing in the other. AWOL Trooper, thank you very much for the follows, very much appreciated. I imagine the sculptor thought he was doing something really cool and dynamic, but unfortunately it just looks a little bit wonk. But I think they're cute enough. I think they're cool. You know, and I am in need of kobolds for my campaign. So I've got 3 of those guys and a kobold wizard. I mean, it says Clack the Kobold Sorcerer, which does mean something in the game that he's from, a little bit. But, I mean, I think he is very, very cool. Look at that knife that he's carrying, that sort of sacrificial twin-bladed knife. That's super cool. So there's him and his 3 bodyguards, and then from a later board game, there's these guys, which are quite a bit smaller in stature, but I think they still serve. Here we go. Must get them on screen. I still think they still serve the same purpose. You know, these can just be big dumb brutes, and these guys can be a bit more, I don't know, sneaky rogue type boys. Unfortunately, they are extremely flippy floppy, so I'm going to have to be quite careful when I paint them up. But I think they're going to be quite a nice little team once they're painted. So I've got those to do as well. I'm just talking away as I'm letting this guy dry a little bit, because the last little bit that I need to do is his skull, which is surrounded by wet contrast paint, and then the braces in Agrax Earthshade, and then he'll actually be done. So that's most of that done in about one sitting, one stream, which is quite good. It's quite fast. All we did last session was we put the base coat of green on him, and we applied a tiny little bit of shade in the crevices, but the rest of that has all been done in this 1 hour and a bit, hour and 3/4, nearly 2 hours that we've had. So that's quite good turnaround for me. I'm quite pleased with that. Oh, I do need to paint his eyes. Look at that. I can paint some eyes. That's what I do. Chatting away here, trying to take up some time, and I can go back and actually paint some eyes on him. That'll do. Ah, and his teeth as well. That'll be good. Now, I'm normally more than happy to just take this stuff straight from the pot. We're going to actually thin it ever so slightly. Right. And we're going to go quite broad with these because they actually reward slightly larger eyes on these models because you can actually see them, unlike a lot of sculpts. Go. Yep, that'll do. And then we've got some teeth to paint in. No major detail here. They are quite rough and very much a soft detail on these miniatures here, these teeth. You can barely make them out, but there's enough there that we can get some colour on it. I think what I might do with this one is once we've done these teeth, and I might even do his fingernails as well. I won't do his toenails because I suppose I could. Is I might hit these with a coat of Agrax as well because they're not going to be particularly clean teeth. I suppose he might use Trollgate though. No, sorry, I must stop. Sorry. I'm sorry. Don't hate me for it. I can't resist. When I see a pun, I have to go for it. You all would have done the same. Right, they are very, very low on the detail there of those claws. So, well, I'll just try and get a little bit on the inside of each of them. Just to make it so that that colour works the way around. And then what we'll do is we will hit that with a little bit of, like I say, a little bit of Agrax Earthshade, and we'll tone those back. Now, does he? Hi there, Fields. Welcome back. I'm afraid I don't think I've got chat commands set up yet, so lurks are not a thing, but I know that you're there and that you're lurking. That'll do. I'm going to do his toenails as well, because why the hell not? While we've got the white and the Agrax together, we're just going to hit that up. And then we'll just knock it back with Agrax. Thank you very much about the background music. I go on to YouTube and just type in no copyright sounds, and there's a bunch of them. So I just hit that and it plays. I think this one is actually like 12 hours long, so should be more than enough background music for our little session, which I'm going to call to an end shortly. Yeah, I mean, AWOL Troopers got it right there. There's you literally just have to search for copyright free. If you get muted for it, you can appeal it. Not all of the lo-fi stuff is actually copyright free, because obviously some of the people, it's not named artists, but the people who produce it and put it on YouTube do still hold the copyright for it. Bear in mind that a lot of things you won't get any notice for copyright on YouTube, but sometimes you will get it for Twitch. Yeah, that is true. There are certain things where you are going to have to give out your legal name, but you just be careful who you're doing it to. As long as that information only goes to YouTube or Twitch, you should generally be okay with it. Because obviously they are required to operate under whatever you have in your region for like data protection. Right, there we go. A little bit of bone on his bone cover thing. I wonder, I might just skeleton horde. That's a very good idea. It may well be quite expensive if you're just starting out, so just bear that in mind. Oh, that's quite nice. Probably shouldn't have bothered as I'm getting the Agrax out, but that's quite a nice colour there. Certainly looks like, I imagine, a troll toenail would. It'll probably work quite nicely on their fingernails as well. Oh, just smudging my own works there. And while we've got it, we might as well do his teeth as well. Okay. Well, he needs a bit of red in his eyes and then Agrax on his braces and he's done. So we're actually at time, but as a special treat I'm going to go over by a whole minute or whatever. Right, let's just go for a nice bright red for his eyes. And all we're actually doing for his eyes here is just dropping a little dollop of contrast paint around in there. Oh, that's way too much. What am I doing? What am I doing? Because with the white... Oh, that's absolutely murdered it. Gone way too heavy. That's what I was after, where the white actually shows through, but Hey Mouldy, welcome back to the stream. Yes, you are just catching the end of the troll. I'm gonna have to actually fudge this eye a little bit to make it match that eye now. Just ever so awkward there. So let's see if I can scratch that away a little bit. That's better. There we go, that's better. That might need to be repainted, unfortunately. Just on his eyebrow there, but we do try not to do that on this channel. If we make a mistake, that's kind of how you just live with it. The the models are robust enough that they're not actually gonna worry about it. To be fair, they're quite basic models. That the detail on them is soft enough that most people wouldn't notice stuff like that. I'm just going to sketch in here because you can't have muscle veins without them being, you know, purple and swollen, which again is something that I'll try not to say too much on the channel because it's disgusting. There we go. I wonder why that is literally the only muscle veins that they decided to sculpt on, one on each bicep, because, oh well, I'm not going to think too much about it. I hope you had a good session today, Mouldy, with D&D. I was telling the chat about it a little bit. You know, how we had a really nice, quite a nice chilled out session, yet still managed to get into combat with something that appeared to be really dangerous, and then we basically murdered it, and I stole his gun that he never got to fire. Did he get to fire it? I can't remember. Well, that once was enough to tell me that I needed to have his gun. Actually, I did try and get the DM to agree that I could have a gun to start with, but this is the next best thing. Especially as now I don't actually have to sacrifice any gold for it. Okay, just this little bit to do. And then just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of that in the bottom of his toenails, just for added Right, folks, there we go. That is our finished troll. And I'm quite happy with him. He's going to go in the collection. Another one crossed off the list, which I'm absolutely over the moon about. That is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and streaming it is actually really working quite nicely for me. I'm having a great time actually sitting down, and it means that for a couple of hours a night I actually focus on it, and do this, and it's kind of it kind of gets you into a rhythm of doing things, and streaming actually really helps. So I am really enjoying doing the painting streams. I think the gaming and what have you will take a bit of a backside for now, and we'll carry on with this. As much as I was enjoying it, and having fun doing a bit of gaming on stream, this is certainly far more productive. So yeah, it's really nice to actually sit down and do it on stream, and you can actually focus on this, and there's you know, talking about it, what you're doing, it kind of sharpens your mind a little bit. So yeah, at some point I will do a sort of rundown of everything that we've painted so far on the stream, because there's some quite nice models in there. I'm quite happy with them. But yeah, certainly for tonight, this is the end of the stream. I will be back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock UK time as normal, and I'm probably going to run through the whole week again, to see how it goes. I'm trying to measure follower numbers. I'd like to get down to about 4 to 5 nights per week if possible, but I need to kind of work out what would be try and work out what would be the best nights for streaming. So yeah, you'll join us in that sort of experiment. But yeah, the 2 followers, Destruct and AWOL Trooper, thank you very much for the follows. It is very much appreciated as I try and grow the channel. Fields, Mouldy, everyone who's been chatting, really nice to see you. Until the next one, toodaloo.